So I saw Godzilla tonight. For once, I had energy after doing the show on a Tuesday. Usually, I'm bed to the world before, I don't know, like 7, sometimes even 6. I'm like done before that. Process the credits, try to stay awake a little bit longer than that. And, you know, anyway, today I had some energy, so I figured I'd go for a drive. I was gonna drive around New Paltz and over Mohonk and sort of toward I guess Ellenville or Ackerd really, and swing back around toward Kingston. It's a pretty common route for me, and I find it soothing. Um, and instead, on the way, I thought, hey, why don't I go see Godzilla? Because I was texting back and forth with a friend. I think I made a Godzilla joke that made me think I should go see Godzilla because I had heard that it was playing last week while I was in the post office, and I didn't even know movie theaters were open back up, even though it's at limited capacity. So I went and I saw Godzilla at the Independent Cinema. Also, support your local independent cinema. They're pretty cool. And the people at the one in New Paltz are always really, really nice to me. And they're movie buffs, which I like. Not movie snobs, movie buffs. And I dig that. And the two that were there this evening were awesome. They were really nice. And Tuesdays, $6 movie night, unless you want the reclining seats, $7. And that's for the evening show. So evening shows as well. I think the matinee is still $5 or $6. I don't remember which. This is the first movie I've been to in well over a year. Um, Actually, I think it's closer to a year and a half. Anyway, so saw Godzilla. Just epic movie. And after I was done, I went out and I was practically floating. And I made this like 3 or 4 minute video that I intended to share on social media, talking about support your local cinema, independent cinema, and definitely go see Godzilla. And it has all this great stuff, and how the plot pretty much satisfied everything I wanted from a Godzilla movie, and that I predicted and was talking about from like 2 years ago almost, when I saw Godzilla King of the Monsters. I predicted a certain set of things, and I even talked about it on the Black Meta, and it kind of came true, except I was wrong in who was going to turn out to be the overarching baddie for the film. Um, but the way they went, I mean, I had like a list of three people, three titans that I thought would be the big bad to defeat. And anyway, it was one of the three, just not the one that I picked as being the most likely. Anyway, that's not entirely irrelevant, but I was feeling good. So, because of the movie. So, I'm leaving the cinema and I just, get the Bluetooth going, and I'm playing Muse because I was in that kind of mood, Black Holes and Revelations. I think it's their best album. Anyway, I was blasting that. I make the turn left because, and I could have gone right down Route 32 because that's faster. I decided to go left across what is it, 299, and I've already had rotten shit luck about 299 and 9W, but I decided to take that way home anyway, because it's a good run home for me. Not necessarily two places from home, but back to Kingston, it's fine. And I don't even make it to the place where you can, like, I think I actually no, I might have been slightly past where you would turn off to go to the throughway. Um, on 299, I get pulled over. Like, I just, lights and sirens behind me all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, shit. And I hope they weren't for me, but the guy was like, the cop was like 15 feet behind me. And I'm like, they're definitely for me. So I pull over and stop right in the middle of the road. Stop, put the parking brake on, because I always do when I come to a complete stop. And especially when there's cops. And I didn't want to even reach for the key to turn the ignition off because I didn't want to look like I was reaching for something. And then I figured he'd be mad because I did stop in the middle of the road, but I was like, I don't want to piss this cop off any more than he might already be. So I figured it was just worth it to pull over there. So I didn't want to shut the engine off because I didn't want to be reaching. And then I figured if he'd tell me, get out of the road, at least I'd still have the car running. And so he gets to me and he's like, hello, sir. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I can tell this is going to go well. I'm already getting sirred. That's lovely. You know, I mean, it's weird. Normally when I get misgendered, I'm agender. Normally when I get misgendered, it's, usually the opposite direction because, this dumbass voice. But, I hadn't spoken yet. So, hello, sir. Where you going tonight? Or something like that. And then, do you know why I pulled you over? And I'm like, I really do not. Because I really did not. And I tried not to sound, I don't know, like I was getting a tone. I just tried to keep it nice and neutral. And he was like, okay, well, could you just pull over to the side of the road? Um, he might have actually told me why he pulled me over. It was because my passenger side headlight was out. So it like completely out. And I had noticed because I literally had barely gotten down 299. I was still in the relatively lit part of New Paltz, so I didn't even have my high beams on yet. And it was really bright because everything out there is fairly well lit. So I didn't even know. I don't know how he could tell, but he wasn't driving my car, so he probably had a better view as I went past him. But so he has me pull over, and he's like, just so you know, next time, when you pull over, um, but when you stop, don't stop in the middle of the road. Pull over. And oh, I'm sorry. He did ask me why I stopped in the middle of the road after I pulled over to the side. And I was like, well, because I figured you wanted me to stop. And he said, oh, yeah, I get that. I understand that. And I'm thinking, you really fucking don't. I'm in fear for my life right now. You do not understand that. Um, so he took my ID and my registration and did whatever it is they do. And I have one of those tickets that, you you get a mechanic to sign it saying that you got your light fixed, and that has to be signed by the end of tomorrow or at some point tomorrow. I guess whenever all the mechanics are closed, I had better have it signed by then. Um, and then I have until May the 11th, I believe, or something. It's on here somewhere to mail it to New Paltz something. I presume that's also on there. I didn't know what the hell he was referencing at that point. I imagine it's some sort of town judicial. I don't know. But anyway, he said, "All right, Beetle, have a nice night." And I hated that he said my name. Like, he thought it was quirky and nice. And it's like, you just literally shit on my entire night, even though you haven't done anything, as far as I can tell, unlawful or threatening, because I have sat in my car for almost 10 minutes waiting for you to do whatever it is you do with my ID and registration to produce this lovely ticket, and I'm sitting here with my hands on the steering wheel, afraid to even move because you might feel threatened and that veneer of niceness will disappear and I'm going to get warning shots in my skull. So, yeah, that I didn't appreciate the appreciation of my cute and quirky name. So that didn't help matters. And so then after that, I'm basically driving home, and like every car that I see in the rear view or ahead of me or off to the side on some distant road, but I can see the light through the trees, and like, oh God, it's the cops again. And I drove the whole way with the ticket in my hand because Officer Friendly told me that, if I get pulled over again on the way home, just show them the ticket so that they know that you know, the the passenger side light thing has already been addressed. And so when he gave it to me, I was like, okay, thank you. And before I started up the car and pulled back into traffic carefully with my signal, all that good jazz, I had put the ticket in my bag because I drive with, anything that can possibly be opened and that isn't a door wide the hell open because I like being relatively cold or windblown or both when I drive. And I really needed it at that moment because otherwise I was already starting to dissociate. And that's really not good for me when I'm driving because things start to weigh the same. So, you know, running over people is the same as not running over people because all things weigh the same. They're all the same thing when I get into that kind of headspace. And the deeper I go in, the more all things look the same. There's no differentiation. It's like, why? Why not? It's all the same thing. Anyway, so I had the windows all down while I was driving, but before I got to like even the next light, I dug the ticket out of my bag and I drove all the way home with it in my hand So that was about 40 minutes of holding this thing while I'm clutching the wheel and trying not to like throttle the damn thing. I passed a couple of sheriff's cars when I got into Kingston. I was like just hoping to God they didn't shoot me because or pull me over rather. I mean, I'm pretty sure they'd pull me over before they shot me. Although who even knows? But it's just that on the heels of all that's happened over the past few days, I just wanted to forget about that for a night, and just pretend it hadn't happened. I enjoyed the film and I was on cloud 5 bajillion. And then this happened. And it's like there's no more cloud. I'm like back in a pit. And I was texting back and forth with a friend earlier, and they were saying how, hey, you won a Tuesday. Because like I was like, normally I'm comatose because I'm too tired and I have no spoons and I have no anything left for anything. But today, I had extra. And I was using that extra to go for a nice little drive to see Godzilla, and everything was kind of coming up roses this afternoon. And it was for several hours. And then I left the movie theater, and then all of that got shot to the ninth circle. And so it's like, yay, I won for a few hours, and then I lost again. And that, in a nutshell, is America. That is what it does to everyone. And this wasn't even a bad. Like, I walked away. I was unbeaten up, sprayed. I didn't go to jail. I'm not dead. There will be no news story about this. So I am aware of how privileged I am on that score. But I still sat there for that whole time, afraid for my life and wondering if Godzilla's the last movie I'm going to see. Do I dare to move? My nose itches. My nose is starting to run. My throat is so dry. I'm going to cough. What if he sees me coughing and thinks I'm trying to like pull a gun out of who knows where, and the movement scares him or something. And so, right on the heels of like just the first movie I've seen in well over a year, and just some of the best fun I've had in that same amount of time. Another scare on the heels of Dante Wright and Lieutenant Nazario. And just so, it just feels like something that did not need to happen. And yet it did, and it does. And it happens way worse to other people. I, again, am aware of how privileged I am to have driven away from that scene with nothing but a temporary ticket and, having to get a light changed and then a thing signed by a mechanic. So, but even though it didn't end in tragedy, I still had to sit there like it might until it was over. And nobody should have that power to make you fear that they're going to kill you and get away with it. No person, no group should have that power, not even the government. There should be no death penalty. Nobody should have the power to kill another person aside from like, self-defense and not suffer for it. Like, but they have that power. They can kill, they can get away with it. And this past few days just seems calculated to drive that home so intensely. And I don't know. And I guess that's the point, They have that power whether I'm having a good evening, a bad evening, or just I'm asleep already at this time. They will always have that power. They have had that power my whole life and before that, and they'll probably continue to have it long after I'm dead, even if, I'm one of the people they kill. That is a power they have, and they should not. No one should have that power. And if I didn't fully get it before, and I did, I get abolition of policing in the United States the way it has been done. Uh, this just, it can't stand. No one should have the power to make any other person feel like that. I don't care whose team they play for, what colors they wear. No one should have that power. The fact that some do that inequity of a power dynamic, that's just, that is unconscionable. And that is why people say, fuck the police. All cops are bastards. Even the ones that try to be nice, like Officer Friendly tonight, he has said more about who he is by who he's thrown his lot in than any kindness and attempts at understanding how I feel and why I pulled over in the middle of the road. I understand. You fucking don't understand. You've never had to understand, Mr. White Cop. You really don't, and you never will. None of you ever will. There should be no such thing as policing, as America has known it and has been doing it. It should all be brought down. Like, burn the motherfucker down. Like, just burn it all down. And if that doesn't go down, then the whole country does. Because any country that is going to sit there and claim to be just, yet have that kind of injustice and inequity running all through it, like cancer, like whatever the hell is worse than cancer, just burn the motherfucker down, because that country will never be right. Any country that stands for that lets that happen, and is proud of itself and refuses to acknowledge its own hypocrisy, needs to burn. It needs to be done. Torn down, salt the earth. Don't build anything from the fucking remnants. Start over from scratch. I don't care with what, just so long as it's not this shit that we've done. This American experiment. I mean, how many lives does an experiment have to cost before you switch up your game, or just stop the experiment and figure out something else that actually costs fewer lives and is more just? And this is how it feels with, just a minor, this didn't end in tragedy. But for the way I was feeling, I'm not going to say there's no difference, but I experienced this like it could possibly be my last night on earth, my last movie, my last drive, my last time getting pulled over. That sounds good, except, no one should be able to make me feel like they're going to be the last face that I am going to see on this planet. No one should have that power over any other person. No government, no officer of that government, no one. Fuck the police, but fuck America too. Fuck white supremacy, and fuck every person that sits there quiet because they're not the ones who aren't benefiting from it. That's the thing that nobody seems to want to talk about. It can't be black people or other people of color that solve racism, because we don't benefit from it. We're not the majority that benefits from it. So how are we going to dismantle it when there's a whole damn country out there benefiting from it that's like, nah, we like the status quo? That's why people like Martin Luther King and even Malcolm X in his later days said it had to be a group effort. It had to be everybody, because the minority that suffers doesn't have the power to end the thing that benefits the majority, and has done so and has built entire nations on stepping on the minority. We can't fight a majority that benefits from our pain and from our loss. So, as evidenced by policing, because if we could do something about it, we would have started with policing. We would have started with the slave catchers, with the paddy rollers, with the night riders. But instead, they have $100 million budgets, budgets larger than some small country. So I just wanted to see a movie and have fun and forget. But this country never lets you forget. And so I think in response, this country should never be allowed to forget. Should never be allowed to forget. This is why I have to be up in people's faces about this. Because the world is up in my face about it, even when I just want a single night, not even the whole night, just a few hours to forget, to not have to be black on this planet, and stand up for myself because of that. If I can't forget, no one gets to forget. If I have to wear a hair shirt, this whole world is going to feel that itch. I am not going to bear this alone. and another fucking ticket.